Who are the best teams in the NFL heading into the 2025 season? Well, I'm going to rank all 32 NFL teams so we can find out who should be competing for a Super Bowl and who could be picking first overall in the NFL draft in April. This is based on, obviously, talent of the team, but also depth, coaching, strength of schedule, off-season losses and acquisitions, and more. And I'll be putting these teams into tiers which you can see on the screen and ranking them within those tiers to give us a power ranking of all 32 teams. The top tier is the Super Bowl contenders tier. These are the best teams in the NFL, teams which should be competing for a ring, and if they don't at least make it to the Super Bowl, it will feel like a disappointing season. The next tier down, we have the playoff contenders. Super Bowl might be a bit of a reach for these teams, but they should be aiming to comfortably make the playoffs and make waves in it, i.e. winning a playoff game or two. The next tier down, we have the playoff fringe. Now, these are both teams which make the playoffs, either scraping in the wild card, maybe winning in an easier division, but also teams that are in the hunt throughout the season, teams that just miss out on that playoff berth. The next tier down, we have the mid tier, what I like to call the NFL's no man's land. These are teams that aren't terrible, but also aren't good. So they don't get to have the value of a top 10 draft pick, maybe get out of being mid next year, but they also don't really threaten to make the playoffs at any given time. Basically, think of teams picking between 8 and 16 in the draft. And then finally, we just have the bad tier. These are going to be the teams with the top 8 picks, so the worst teams in the NFL, teams that are never really threatening to do anything apart from hoping for next season to be better. And before I get into the rankings, make sure you subscribe for more NFL offseason content. Make sure you leave a like, leave a comment. Do you agree or disagree with my rankings? I'm sure everyone's going to agree. Things like this always go down really well with fans, so let me know your thoughts. I always like to hear them. We're going to start off fittingly, I think, with last year's Super Bowl winner, and that is the Philadelphia Eagles. And I don't think it's really going to be a surprise to anyone what tier I'm going to put this team in. I think they are, on the whole, the strongest roster in the NFL. They have the best offensive line, certainly the best offensive line coaching as well. That counts for so much in the modern NFL. They've got one of the best running backs in the league in Saquon Barkley, reigning offensive player of the year. They've got 2 top wide receivers, one of the best wide receiver duos, if not the best in the league, in Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown. They've got an amazing interior defensive line combination of Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis. They've got great linebackers, corners, safeties. You name it, the Eagles have it. I'm not a huge Jalen Hurts truther. I don't think he's an elite quarterback, for example. I think he can be a great one on his day, but he's kind of in that kind of great to good fringe, I would say. But he does exactly what he needs to keep this offense moving, plays within the confines of it, uses the talent he has around him to his advantage. It's not a knock. I'm not saying he's a system quarterback or anything like that, but he does what he needs to do. He does not hold this team back. He does exactly what he should do, either through the air with his arm or on the ground with his legs. He is a very good quarterback for what the Eagles have built around him. My only concern about this team, I would say, is head coach Nick Sirianni. I think because of how good the coordinators have been, which might be a credit to him in his hiring, we don't really know how good of a head coach Sirianni is, frankly. And I'm a little bit worried that the Eagles might have a repeat of a few years ago where they lost both their offensive and defensive coordinator, had a good year record-wise, but massively spiraled towards the end of the season. Now, they lost their offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore. He's gone to New Orleans, and they've hired Kevin Patullo, an internal promotion. I'm sure he's going to be a great hire. I don't know much about him to comment. But when you don't have that continuity of the offensive coordinators, it does bring some questions, I think. And when Nick Sirianni isn't a guy that I know I can trust, it just makes me question that even more. But fundamentally, they're a really talented team on the field. They are very well coached. They have a fantastic understanding of finances and that paying players early means you have to pay less for them ultimately. And they are one of the strongest overall teams by far. They are definitely going in the Super Bowl contenders tier. It just depends where they're going to be in that tier. They're not necessarily going to be my number one, but we'll see where they end up ranked. Then we have the Los Angeles Chargers. This team has such a clear identity, and that is run the damn ball. Greg Roman and Jim Harbaugh are going to run the ball until they physically can no longer do so. They drafted Amarian Hampton, a downhill, bell cow, bruising running back who is going to be running behind Joe Alt, Rashawn Slater, and the absolute behemoth at guard, Mekhi Becton. They're going to run the rock, and they're going to run it well. And even if they can't run it, They have Justin Herbert at quarterback, one of, I think, the better quarterbacks in the league. Is he in that elite tier? No, he's definitely not. He's not been consistent enough to show that, but he has the talent, I think, to play at that level. He's got the arm strength, he's got the playmaking ability, he's got the athleticism. I think Justin Herbert is a fantastic quarterback. His feel in the pocket isn't quite as good as the other guys. His escapability, his kind of play extending ability isn't quite there. He doesn't have that kind of understanding of the escape hatch in the pocket, which Patrick Mahomes can see out the back of his eyes. Lamar Jackson just innately knows is there. So that's my drawback for Herbert. The defense, though, under Jesse Minter, runs one of the kind of more innovative offensive systems in the league under that Mike McDonald tree who's at Seattle. I love what he did with the defense last year. It's going to be the same system going into year 2. They've got that linchpin at linebacker and Dayon Henley, who played fantastically. They've got some good players on that defense as well. I think that's going to be even better, if not just as good as last year. And I think they're a rock solid team. I think they got 10 wins last year. I think they'll get 10 wins again this year. Now, they're not going to compete for a Super Bowl, I don't think. It's obviously within their range of outcomes, definitely. But I feel pretty comfortable that they are a playoff contender. Again, though, where in that tier? We will see. Then we have the New England Patriots. I'm going to be bullishly high on the Patriots, I think, compared to most people this year, because it's a new team. It's a new team, and I love the players they brought in. They have a new head coach, Mike Vrabel. He's going to bring an immediate floor to the team, 100%. They have technically a new QB to start the season. I know Drake May played last year. He looked really good, I thought, but he didn't start the season. So a new QB to start the season. New wide receivers, Stephon Diggs and Kyle Williams. Love Kyle Williams in the draft. Was my my fourth receiver in that draft class. Really liked him. Offensive line, they added Will Campbell, my OT1, my highest ranked lineman. I think he's really good. Short arms be damned. They added Morgan Moses as well, a very underrated tackle, I would say. He's rock solid. And Garrett Bradbury at center, and then also Jared Wilson as an interior offensive lineman. Those are 4 new guys who will upgrade any single position you put them at for the Patriots offensive line. Then defensive line, they brought in Milton Williams, who is fantastic from the Eagles. That was the big money splash signing. They also drafted Braden Swinson, who I think is going to be fantastic from LSU. He slipped in the draft, not sure why. I think he could be really good this year. And they also signed Harold Landry. I think that's neither here nor there. I don't think he's particularly good, but it's a big name at the very least. And then at running back, they drafted Travion Henderson, who was my RB3. Absolutely loved Henderson. He was so good, so electric, threat to score anywhere in the field, great in pass pro. He's another pseudo offensive lineman for Drake May, and is great in the air and on the ground. I think he's going to be so damn good. Drake May, though, is a playmaker. I think we saw that ability from him. I think he is up there with only a handful of quarterbacks that can just make something happen out of nothing. And we didn't see it that consistently, but it is 100% there for Drake May. And that's why he was almost my QB1 in that draft class, because I just love that X factor ability. Josh Allen has it, Patrick Mahomes has it. I'm not saying he's as good as that now. He definitely isn't. But it's an innate ability which I think is uncoachable. And to have it is such a plus. And I think he's going to be helped by a better supporting cast. I think we're going to see that playmaking ability more, 100%. Then defensively, they're getting Christian Gonzalez back healthy. He's one of the better young cornerbacks in the league. They're also getting Christian Barmore back. That's a literal rock in the middle of the defensive line. Then Mike Vrabel, as I said, brings an immediate floor to that team. Well coached, competent. Like, you might question the ceiling of Mike Vrabel's coaching, fine. But as a floor, like, this team is just undoubtedly going to be better than last year. And also, the AFC East, I think the Dolphins are on the downturn. The Jets aren't going to do anything this year. I think the Patriots could really sneak a few wins and get quite a few more wins than people are expecting them to get. Really, they've got the third easiest schedule. And I don't think that they are a playoff team yet. I think they are a year away from that. I think we need to see more from Drake May. But for me, they're going to be at the top of this mid-tier. Like, I really would not be shocked if they make the playoffs as like a scrape-in wild card, like winning in last game of the season kind of vibes, and someone just drops a game and they can get in that way. It might not be in their own destiny. They might not have that option if they just win, they're definitely in. But I could see it happening that the Patriots surprise people to make the playoffs. I'm putting them here because I think the most likely outcome is they just miss out. But I think we're definitely going to see a big improvement from the Patriots this year, so you have been warned. The Minnesota Vikings. Love the team, but JJ McCarthy is the big question mark. Kevin O'Connell is a great head coach. He was responsible for the Sam Darnold redemption arc. Absolutely love that. The weapons, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, some of the best weapons in the league, one of the best trios the receiving threat trios in the league, definitely. And the offensive line is really strong. And they added Will Freeze, Ryan Kelly, who are two Colts offensive linemen, so the continuity will be there between those two. And they also double dipped and drafted an offensive lineman in the first round, which I love, in Donovan Jackson. So they have made they've bulletproofed their offense for JJ McCarthy. There really isn't a weak point here. It's not the receiving weapons. It's not the offensive line. It's not the tight end. It is JJ McCarthy's job now to do what needs to be done, really. And when you look at the defensive side of the ball, Brian Flores is going to have that defensive unit humming like he did last year. Kind of got not found out towards the end of the year, but definitely wasn't as potent at the beginning. We need to see probably another wrinkle be added to that this year to keep offenses on their toes. But Flores has shown that he is one of the stronger defensive minds in the league, and him not getting snapped up for a head coaching position is really good for the Vikings this year. Now, the question is can JJ McCarthy sustain a very pass-heavy offense? Sam Darnold last year had the 8th most passing attempts in the league at 585. JJ McCarthy, in his highest passing volume year, the year before he got drafted, obviously, the final year at Michigan, he threw 240 times in 2023. He only had 481 passing attempts in his career. So even if you put together every single attempt that JJ McCarthy had in college, it still wouldn't be as much as Sam Darnold had last season alone. So that's really where the question is for me, is can JJ McCarthy wear that pressure and wear that volume and repeatedly, consistently not turn the ball over, but make big plays? And what you saw from Sam Darnold was the kind of YOLO ball occasionally. He would just chuck it up to Justin Jefferson, those big field flipping plays, which are like 50, 60-yard overall plays at the end of the day. That is what kept the Vikings offense going when it was kind of pinned back. You know, I think Darnold had one from his own toes on his own end zone at one point. So that's what we need to see McCarthy do, is kind of say, F it, and just let that thing fly, really. And I worry that because of his lack of experience, that's either not going to happen full stop, or if it does happen, it's too risky. Obviously, those throws are always a little bit risky, and it's a balance of risk to reward, but I worry that it's just going to be too many YOLO passes, not quite like Jameis Winston, but a little more towards the risky end, definitely. Now, JJ obviously had a lot of hype in the preseason. It was obviously devastating. He got injured. He might be able to, but with the questions that I have about McCarthy, I feel like I can't be too optimistic about him. But I am going to put this team in the playoff fringe, definitely. Really, again, wouldn't shock me if they were a firm playoff team. I'm just going a bit more towards the floor here with the Vikings kind of expectations because of McCarthy. He is a question mark, undoubtedly. The Chiefs, the Super Bowl losers. Now, I think a lot of people are underselling what the Chiefs are going to be this year. And I think that's a dangerous move to do. They've still got Patrick Mahomes. They've still got Andy Reid. You could put 10 of me on offense, 11 of me on defense. And with those two alone, they're going to be a really good team. The offensive line might be a bit ropey. They did add Josh Simmons, the rookie from Ohio State, to kind of try and plug that offensive line woe they were having. That's basically why they lost the Super Bowl. They had Joe Tooney playing guard, and he was getting dog-walked by Jalex Hunt with longer arms. But Josh Simmons is a rookie. Rookie offensive linemen don't really hit the ground running in their first year. And he is coming off an injury as well, missed most of last year. And the games that he did play in, he didn't play against Ohio State's strongest competition. He played against Marshall and Akron and Western Michigan. And even when he went against Marshall, he never went against the good Marshall edge rusher, whose name is escaping me now, who was drafted by the Ravens, because he didn't rush from that side. So there's definitely a question mark around Josh Simmons, definitely. Now, what we need to remember with the Chiefs, though, is that this team made the Super Bowl last year. And I think because they got blown out by the Eagles, that there's a bit of recency bias here, that their season ended in a devastating loss. That loss was in the Super Bowl. I think the Chiefs last year looked as mortal as they've ever looked. And they still were the second best team in the league, technically. So I just think the loss is blinding people because it's the same team player-wise, essentially, but now they've added Omar Norman-Lott in the draft, who I think is going to be fantastic next to Chris Jones. He's a brilliant pass rusher. I can't believe he fell as far as he did. They also added Jalen Royals, the wide receiver, and they're getting Rashee Rice back healthy. They are, I would argue, a slightly better team than last year. And again, they made the damn Super Bowl. And I just think that people are underestimating the Chiefs, and I think that is a recipe for disaster. They are definitely Super Bowl contenders pretty comfortably. Anyone that says otherwise, it's wishful hoping. I know we don't want them to be. They're going to be. The Browns, from highs to low, good grief. If you have 4 quarterbacks on your roster, really you have 0. Let's be honest with ourselves there. You don't have a guy if you've got 4. It's as simple as that. Kenny Pickett, Dylan Gabriel, Shadur Sanders, Joe Flacco. Who are you choosing there? None of those guys give you a high ceiling. Sure, some of them might give you a higher floor. Some of them might give you more consistency. None of them are playoff caliber quarterbacks, I would argue. Personally, for what it's worth, I would go with Dylan Gabriel. I think he could operate Kevin Stefanski's offense well, kind of be that point and shoot quarterback, look after the ball as well while doing so. I would then have Flacco as the high value backup and Shadur Sanders as the QB3 because he's a big name and you have already paid him, and I would let Kenny Pickett go. One of those 4 is going to go by the end of the season, 100%. They're just trying to amp up the trade value for one of them. The offense, though, really isn't great. Jerry Jeudy is best situated as a wide receiver 2. Cedric Tillman needs to stay healthy. He's probably a wide receiver 3. They're kind of lacking star power on offense, definitely. Deontay Johnson is the 3rd wide receiver currently. I'm not holding my breath that guy can put it together again. Defense, on the other hand, fantastic. Myles Garrett, one of the biggest stars in the league. Absolutely, just a one-man wrecking crew from the edge rusher position. I think, in my opinion, the best defensive player in the league. Maybe one of the best players in the league, full stop. Denzel Ward as well, at cornerback. It's a lot. There's a lot of talent on that Browns defense. That's not the issue. The issue is the offense. And if the offense can't uphold its side of the bargain and the defense is constantly on the field and they're constantly playing from behind, it doesn't really matter how good your defense is, unfortunately. Myles Garrett will make a play every now and then, but the offense has to be able to take advantage of that. And I don't think they're going to be able to. I don't think the Browns are in that position whatsoever. But really, my biggest issue with the Browns is that they can't stop being the Browns. This team is inherently incapable, it seems, of being competent, which is harsh. But as you can see from the Baker Mayfield poster behind me, I know that full well. This team just can't escape its own incompetency. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. I cannot see a world where this team does not pick in the top 10 next year. It just does not exist. The Raiders, they had 2 of the biggest upgrades in football, I would argue, this offseason. Geno Smith at quarterback and Ashton Jeanty at running back. And that has instantly made this team a hell of a lot better. Aiden O'Connell to Geno Smith, stratospheric upgrade at the most important, most impactful position in the game. And Geno Smith, in my opinion, is a top 10 quarterback. I know people don't like that, but he is. I think people just underestimate him because of the name. He wasn't very good, whatever it might be. Geno Smith is a damn good quarterback. And you know what? He's even better in a dome, and the Raiders play in a dome. Dome Geno, good luck. He's going to tear some defenses apart. I can guarantee you that. Ashton Jeanty, the Raiders' run game was 32nd in terms of rush yards per game. Rarely is it the fault of the running back that the run game isn't good. Usually it's because of the offensive line. You need to have a good running scheme, good play calling, and like I said, good blocking to be able to run. It's the NFL. I don't think that is the case for the Raiders for the most part. I think their running backs were just not very good. And Ashton Jeanty is very good. He's more than very good. He's absolutely insane. One of the best rushing seasons from a running back we've ever seen. Arguably the second best ever behind only Barry Sanders. And Ashton Jeanty is upgrading that running game immediately. He's already done it. That's already sorted. It's a tick. This guy can get yards by himself. And I think the Raiders' offensive line is actually pretty good as well. So I think he's going to have good blocking to make those runs even more potent. Pete Carroll, as the new head coach, experienced, battle-tested. He is also going to make this team a hell of a lot better. And he does not mess around when he's trying to win. He's the oldest head coach in the league. He's not trying to build a dynasty in Las Vegas. He's trying to win now. And honestly, looking at how this team is set up with Chip Kelly as the offensive coordinator, Ashton Jeanty, Geno Smith, Brock Bowers, Max Crosby, Christian Wilkins, Jacoby Myers, Jeremy Chin. There's talent on this team to back up the coaching. The floor here, I would say, for the Raiders is a fine football team. But I think the ceiling is a playoff team. It's just the question of the AFC West. They've got the Chiefs. They've got the Broncos. They have a really good division they've got to play in. They've got to play really good teams. So because of that, I'm going to put them in the playoff fringe. But the question is it ahead or behind of the Vikings? I think they are going to be behind the Vikings. The Vikings were a playoff team last year. Let's not get too cute here. But I'm high on the Raiders. The Raiders and the Patriots, I'm high on them. The Panthers. I am predicting a big upswing for the Panthers this year. And that's because we saw what they looked like with a competent Bryce Young towards the end of the season. We saw what I hope is the real Bryce Young from week 9 onwards. He was playing with confidence, throwing with timing, anticipation, rhythm. He had that confidence. The kids say aura about him, like when he was playing at Alabama down the end of the season, which is why he was mine and many others QB1. He had that kind of innate playmaking ability that I think makes for a great quarterback. Now, Bryce Young definitely went within himself and played some of the worst quarterback play I've ever seen in the NFL from a starting quarterback. But he looked like a different quarterback. In the last 7 weeks of the season, he had 21 big-time throws. That's averaging 3 big-time throws a game. He looked like a genuine, good NFL quarterback, if not even better than that. But let's be conservative here. Let's just call him a good one for now. And I like that the Panthers doubled down on their offense. They added Tetra McMillan, my wide receiver 1, someone who I think could be like a CeeDee Lamb, be that bigger-bodied yards after the catch threat, line him up inside, outside. He's really good. Yes, he's not fast, which I know is the kind of in vogue of the NFL at the moment, but he is really, really damn good. He is my wide receiver 1, hands down, without a doubt. It became cool to not rate McMillan by the end of the draft process. And I think people are going to regret that, because I think he is going to make Bryce Young look really good, and he in his own right is going to be really good. And I think the offensive line with competent quarterback play is also going to look really good. So I think this whole team, by not really adding anything and adding McMillan, but regardless of that, has just naturally kind of almost going to positively regress, if that makes sense. And the defense was a huge problem last year. They did allow the most points, the most rush yards in NFL history. Literally a historically bad defense. But they added 3 new free agents to the defensive line, basically a new unit. They also get Derek Brown back healthy. That is a huge addition. They're not going to be the best defense by any stretch of the imagination. There's still a lot of lacking talent there, especially beyond the defensive line. But I do think they're going to be better. So I think the Panthers are going to be a decent team. It's just the question of if it's more or less than the Patriots, really, for me. I think the Patriots will be better. Do I? Man, I really like both of those teams, but I can't put every team in playoff fringe. Someone has to be mid, unfortunately. So it'll be a better season from the Panthers. Bryce Young will show that he can be the quarterback of the future. Maybe they need a bit more defensive talent to really compete. Let's say that. The Dolphins. So they traded away Jalen Ramsey and Johnny Smith for Minkah Fitzpatrick. I think both Ramsey and Fitzpatrick are beyond their prime. I think Ramsey had more in him than Fitzpatrick personally. I think Fitzpatrick's kind of lost a step. He's no longer a top 5 safety by any stretch of the imagination. I think, though, that Jalen Ramsey in the slot is one of the best slot defenders in the league even now. So I think they lost that. And I just think that this is going to seem harsh. I love Mike McDaniel as an offensive mind, but I think we've really started to see the cracks in Miami, kind of from top to bottom, really, from play calling to player personnel to kind of player decisions, really, from like a general manager standpoint. I just think that they are stuck at the moment, really. And they have a very wide range of outcomes as a result. I could see this team comfortably picking in the top 10. And I could see this team making a playoff spot. It just kind of depends on, does the quite disjointed vision of what the 2025 Dolphins are going to be align? And will that work, basically? I think that at the moment, we found that the offensive system that Mike McDaniel runs is one-dimensional. The speed kills, absolutely, but when it's later in the season, you've got injuries and it's colder, it's not really how you win football games. And I didn't subscribe to that myself before. I thought it was like kind of a lazy talking point. But the proof is in the pudding. The Dolphins cannot win in cold weather. Tua cannot play in cold weather. This team does not play well in January. That's because it's reliant on one thing only. You need to have a change-up. You need to have a bit of power. They tried to do that with Johnny Smith. They got rid of him. He was part of the trade package. Darren Waller, they brought him in as the new tight end. He's a 33-year-old SoundCloud rapper playing tight end. I don't think he's going to be very good. And Tua, we've seen his ceiling, I think. And frankly, it is not good enough. I think Tua is a fine point-and-shoot quarterback who can win you games when everything works. He is not, though, a quarterback that I would say when you're down a score in a playoff game, you've got seconds left on the clock, he's not going to win you that game. So I just don't really see how I can rank the Dolphins any higher than where I see their floor, frankly. And I think that the Dolphins could be a lot better than where I'm about to rank them. They are getting Bradley Chubb back healthy. They have Phillips as well back healthy. They added Kenneth Grant to the defensive line. Like, they genuinely could be a lot better than I think. But I could see Hill quitting on the team. I can see Tua not playing well. I can just see this getting a little bit out of hand in Miami. And I'm going to rank them in the bad tier. Like I said, I can see them not behind the Browns, though, Jesus. But I can see this team picking in the top 10. At the top of it, don't get me wrong, but I can see them picking in the top 10. It's not looking good. But, a team that it's also not looking good for, relatively speaking, is my Houston Texans. I think they're a great football team on the whole. They've got a really good head coach, who I love. They've got a really strong defense as a result. We have an exciting young quarterback in CJ Stroud. Love the boy. We've got new dynamic offensive weapons in the draft. Love that as well. My wide receiver 3 and 5, respectively. We should be a playoff lock in a weaker AFC. But we have a massive Achilles heel. And that is our offensive line. It is terrible. It is, I would say, the worst offensive line in football. We traded away Laramie Tunsil, who was the only one on that offensive line that played remotely well. And we didn't get anyone in to really replace that, apart from a second-round rookie who, as I said, rookie offensive linemen don't tend to play well, especially ones that are not drafted in the first round. CJ Stroud is not Patrick Mahomes. He is not Josh Allen. He is not Lamar Jackson. He does not have that maneuverability. We saw him last year be a bit more mobile because he has to be, but that's not in his wheelhouse. That's not his game. Being a rushing threat is not how CJ Stroud wins. He wins from the pocket by throwing really accurate deep ball passes. We've got the receivers to do that. We do not have the offensive line to do that. And that is going to be a massive, massive concern. Best case scenario, CJ Stroud does his best Joe Burrow impression and wins with Nico Collins, Jaden Higgins, and Jalen Knoll. Those 3 guys are great, I think, will be great. CJ Stroud, I think, can be great. Saw him be a top 7 quarterback in his rookie season. But he needs an offensive line. Every offensive system needs an offensive line. Few more so than the Texans. The defense is incredibly well coached. Great players, top to bottom. That's not going to be the problem. Again, it's can the offense uphold its side of the bargain? And if CJ Stroud is on the ground, we are cooked. So I'm going to put us as a playoff fringe. Do I think we're going to be better than the Vikings is the real question. I don't think so. Do I question the offensive line more than the quarterback, really? I think I'll leave them there. I think we are a playoff fringe team. If the offensive line magically plays better, we're a playoff lock. But I don't think they're going to. I'm going to be realistic. Now, the Lions. Lions fans, I'm sorry. We don't see eye to eye often. And this is going to be one of the times where I feel like we're going to clash. But before you dislike the video or leave a comment, just hear me out first. So, unfortunately, because I think the league is better when the Lions are good, I genuinely believe that, I think this team is set for potentially massive regression this year. Kind of Eagles 2023-esque, something I already spoke about when they lost both their offensive and defensive coordinator. And the record-wise, it was a good team. I don't think the Lions would potentially be as good record-wise, but you just saw a team implode kind of from the middle out. And that is what has happened in Detroit. They have lost their offensive coordinator in Ben Johnson, and they lost their defensive coordinator in Aaron Glenn. And Dan Campbell is someone I doubted, but he is an excellent head coach. He has rebuilt the culture in Detroit genuinely from the ground up, established, sounds cringe, sounds cliche, but a winning culture. That is what it looks like. It looks like what it is in Detroit. And he obviously is a great hirer. But it is not easy to replace 2 of the best coordinators in the game. And it is not easy for those systems to be as good and as effective as the one by Ben Johnson, really is what I'm talking about. Glenn is brilliant, but Ben Johnson was the best offensive coordinator in football for the last 2 years. Losing that, he and Jared Goff looking like a top 10 quarterback. I think that's going to be very, very hard to replace. And then you throw in the fact that the offensive line has also lost key pieces. Frank Ragnow retired, and they lost Kevin Zeitler in free agency. And Frank Ragnow was one of the best centers in the game. Kevin Zeitler, a really good guard. Jared Goff is a quarterback that struggles with interior pressure. And you're going to have 2 first-time starters on that offensive line. And I think, Penei Sewell's great. The other tackle's great. It's the interior that I worry about. And when it's Jared Goff, that's a problem. The guy has 0 maneuverability, 0 escape ability as well. They do get Aiden Hutchinson back. Last year was the best pass rusher in the league. I mean, it was bonkers watching that guy rush the passer. He was terrorizing offensive linemen week after week. He could alone get this team, a good amount of wins. And maybe the coaches are great hires, but they have the third hardest schedule. They've lost massive coaching pieces. They've lost big offensive line pieces. I can be too low on this team. And I can see myself getting burnt for it. But they're going to go in the mid-tier. Are they, though, better than the Panthers? I'll put... The Lions were a playoff team last year, and the Panthers weren't. So I will put the Lions there. Patriots? I said I'm high on the Patriots. People aren't going to like it, but I'm going to keep it there. The Jags. I don't know about you guys, but I am done waiting for the Jags to be good. I'm happy to be pleasantly surprised by them, but I'm kind of over the whole, this is going to be the Jags year. This is going to be the year that Trevor Lawrence finally puts it together and looks like the first overall pick worthy quarterback. He's been good. Don't get me wrong. He's been a good quarterback. I wouldn't say he's been better than good, though. I believe he could be great, but we've not seen those steps. And look, having a good quarterback is good. Don't get me wrong, but it's just a shame that we were kind of all collectively expecting a little bit more from Trevor, I think. But it is worth saying that with a full season of Brian Thomas Jr., which obviously Trevor didn't get because he was knocked out, unfortunately, literally, of the season. Having a full season with Brian Thomas Jr., who looks unbelievable, another player I got wrong in the draft, full admission. He looks like the next kind of generation of alpha wide receiver ones. He had an unbelievable rookie season, combination of size, speed, he looked untouchable, genuinely. Look at the Colts game. Look at the diving defender, untouchable, quite literally. They got Travis Hunter, a wide receiver one in his own right at wide receiver, can also obviously play cornerback, but I think Hunter and Brian Thomas Jr. could be one of the best wide receiver duos in the league, up there with the Eagles. And they've got a new head coach in Liam Cohen, who got the best out of Baker Mayfield. He could get the best out of Trevor Lawrence. And I think it's fair to say that Lawrence is more talented than Baker. So we could see a resurgence in that aspect, definitely. And they've got an effective pass rush in Josh Hines-Allen and Trayvon Walker, and they've got other nice defensive pieces. But it's Trevor Lawrence's ship. And I don't trust the captain. So I don't think they're going to be bad, but I don't think they're going to be good. By definition, that puts them in mid. And I would back the Panthers over the Jags right now. I would. Colts. When you bring in Daniel Jones to compete for the starting quarterback position, you've got a quarterback problem. And it's a quarterback-driven league. A lot of these teams that I'm going to rank highly have good quarterback-head coach combinations. I like the head coach. I have questions. Who's the quarterback? Daniel Jones or Anthony Richardson? I'm not tying myself down to either of those two, for what it's worth. Anthony Richardson comfortably, and I mean comfortably, led the league in off-target throws. 28% of his throws were off-target or like uncatchable, inaccurate, whatever you want to call them. That was 7% higher than Bryce Young, who was the next lowest quarterback at 35th. So it wasn't even among just the top 32. Anthony Richardson was 36th in inaccurate passes. He couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat, unfortunately. And that derailed the offense massively. You could see it. They could not get the ball moving because there was no consistency from Richardson. And he might not be able to hit a slant. This is the kind of weird thing about Richardson. He can't hit a 5-yard slant, but he can magically hit a 53-yard nuke down the field in perfect stride to Alec Pierce for a 75-yard touchdown. That's what the potential that Richardson holds. Great rushing threat, electric arm. The bloke's an absolute unit as an athlete. But he's inconsistent as a passer. Looks like Tarzan, plays like Jane, really, is Richardson's problem. It's a question of, can you harness his potential and actually get that consistently? Because really, consistency is key. The deep ball is there in occasion, and it's a fantastic play when it comes off, and it's 7 every time. But he can't hit a slant on 3rd and 3, which is open. So it doesn't really matter if you have the highs. You need to have those kind of throws, those deep bombs. 2 of those a game, maybe, out of 35 attempts in a shootout. It's a percentage. It's a tiny percentage. You need to be able to make those consistent throws, and Richardson can't. Then we have Daniel Jones. Now, I'm not willing to tie myself to Jones, but I'm letting you guys know now that I can see a world whereby Daniel Jones has a Sam Darnold-esque resurgence. Maybe not quite as good, not getting the huge contract kind of vibes, but saving his career. I can see it. I think Daniel Jones is an overhated quarterback. I think he is more consistent than Anthony Richardson. Not much more, but more, and that counts for a lot. And I can see him winning this starting job. I can see it, and I think that if he does win the starting job, that means the Colts aren't doing well. So I don't think they're going to be that good this year. The offense is going to be RPO heavy. It's going to rely on Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson's legs, and rely on them hitting those throws when they need to. Tyler Warren at tight end, huge get. A.D. Mitchell at wide receiver. If he takes a step, he at points he looked great, but he couldn't really put it together. There's a lot there for the Colts, but I'm going to rank this team closer to their floor because we haven't seen it consistently. And I can't put the team any higher than bad because of the quarterback problems. It's just a question of, are they higher or lower than the Browns, really? And they're going to be higher than the Browns. We'll put them in between the Dolphins and the Browns, I think. Now, the 49ers. It's a new era for the 49ers. They're in the Brock Purdy big contract era, which has completely changed the makeup of their team. Lost half of it in free agency because of what they're going to have to pay Purdy. Now, talking about Purdy, he is a good quarterback and he can be great. It's just a lot of... Really, for Purdy, it's the combination of him and Shanahan, right? I don't want this to be me kind of raining on Purdy's parade. I think he's a good quarterback. I think he is elevated by Shanahan, undeniably, by the offensive system that he runs. They have a good offensive line now in San Francisco as well. And all of those things are good things. They're all good things. Brock Purdy's a good quarterback. They have a good offensive system with Shanahan. They have a good offensive line. Brings a floor immediately. This team is going to be good, I think. They're also getting Brandon Ayuk back. They're also getting CMC back. Question more so with CMC than with Ayuk, but are you getting 100% of those guys considering the injuries they had? Ayuk with an ACL, these days, not an injury that is impossible to come back from at all. In fact, it's unfortunately quite a common injury. But CMC, serious injuries last year for him. I hope we do, but I'll be surprised if we get the unbeatable, untouchable, best offensive player in the league, Christian McCaffrey version this year, which is a shame. Robert Saleh back as defensive coordinator. They've still got Nick Bosa, still got Fred Warner, added Michael Williams. They're going to be dangerous despite a lot of defensive losses. I just need to see what we're going to get from the 49ers first. I feel like I'm being over cautious from the 49ers almost off the back of a freak year. It's kind of what it feels like to me. But they've got an easy schedule. I'm going to put them in the playoff fringe, and that might be underselling them. I'll put them ahead of the Vikings as well because there's no quarterback question. But I do want to see the 49ers of old before I can feel better about putting them any higher, is what I would say. The Bears. I got burnt by the Bears last year by being high on them, and I'm ready to get hurt again. I don't think I will. I hope I won't. Ben Johnson, best non-player acquisition of the offseason. As I said, had Goff looking like a top 10 quarterback, been the best offensive mind in football, I would say, for the last 2 years. I mean, this guy has penny Saul catching hook and ladders for massive gains. The guy's in his bag. I love it. It's brilliant to watch. Him with Caleb Williams, who I think is a far more talented quarterback than Jared Goff, with then DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, Luther Burden, Colson Loveland. Is that the best four players, like the best three receivers plus tight end in football? I would say so. You might have a better three, but as a four, damn, that's really damn good. They've got a new offensive line as well. Joe Tooney, Drew Dalman, Jonah Jackson in the offseason. Caleb Williams will have a better offensive line, won't be running for his life. It really is dependent on Williams now. He has the offensive line, he has the receivers, he has the coach. There are no excuses left for him. He did not look good last year. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. He looked terrible. I would, though, put most of that at the floor of his coaches. He's still a rookie quarterback. Wasn't, in dying seconds on fourth quarter plays, he was taking sacks on fourth down. I know to throw it away. That is just really bad coaching, I would say. So I believe in Caleb's talent. I think the defense will be good. The offense needs to, and Caleb specifically needs to do their job. But I think this is a playoff fringe team. And do I have them higher than the Texans? It's hard. It's the CJ Stroud question with the Texans. Oh, I don't know. I'll leave them there for now, I think. I'll leave them there for now. Or do I have them just ahead? Man, the offensive line is good. My concern is only Caleb Williams, and I liked him as a rookie, so I am going to put Caleb Williams ahead there. It's the offensive line question in Texas that is going to kill me. Now the Saints. Nobody wanted this head coaching spot for a reason, because they're a bad team in a really bad spot. Derek Carr retired. He wasn't going to stay with them anyway, but explains why they drafted Tyler Shook in the second round. And Shook has a great arm, nice potential. I did really like him. He's got good, big play threat. He's got good pocket feel. Always knows where that escape hatch is in the pocket. Can it roll out and extend the play? Love it. Problem is though, and why I didn't have him in the second round is because, as on my own big board that is because health concerns are as long as my arm, serious injuries. He is coming from Louisville to a week 1 NFL starter. That is mildly concerning, I would say. He's not great under pressure, and he can be checked down happy. And last but kind of not least, really, with Shook is that, yeah, he's an older prospect who has had 6 years and has missed a lot of time due to injury, but he's actually quite inexperienced. He's only had 1 full season, 1 year of production. So you've got this old, inexperienced quarterback, which is quite unique. And I fear that, as I said, coming from that position, being quite inexperienced, having serious injuries, in your mind, you don't want to get injured again and ruin your NFL career. I'm worried what version of Tyler Shook we're going to get, frankly. They have decent wide receivers. I like Olave, health questions. Brandon Cook, it's not 2017 anymore. He's finished. Shaheed is a nice speedster, but questions at wide receiver, despite liking the kind of players. Defensively, they're underwhelming. There's no real stars or kind of game-changing potential players there. Brian Brzee has done absolutely nothing. Chase Young is looking better, but he's their best pass rusher. He's a better number 2 than a number 1. Justin Reed as safety is like a Lambo sat in the garage. It's like that meme, when there's a Lambo in a rundown house. Why they signed him, I don't know. He's not going to be able to change the game from the safety position, despite being good. Brandon Staley as well as defensive coordinator. I hate that. I hate that. I think there's a disaster waiting to happen in New Orleans. And I don't think that is unfair to say. And I think it's kind of what they need. They need to take their medicine, this team. They need to be bad. They need to, for the first time, have a positive cap going into the season. And they just need a hard reset. They got a new head coach in Kellen Moore, who I think will be good. I just don't think it's going to be their year this year. I think they are going to be the worst team in the league. I think they're going to have a first overall pick. And if they get a quarterback, is that the worst thing in the world? The Ravens. This team, I think, has the strongest single identity of any team in the league. No one really plays football like the Ravens. I mean, first of all, you've got Lamar Jackson at quarterback, who I think Mahomes is the best. I love Josh Allen. I love Joe Burrow. But I think Lamar Jackson plays the game in a way that simply no one else does. His ability to just not be touched by NFL defenders is bonkers. I think he is the best dual threat quarterback of all time. And I know who's in that realm. You got Cam Newton, you got Michael Vick. I think Lamar Jackson is the best. He is that good. He can beat you in a million different ways, genuinely. With his legs, you can't rush him properly as the pass rush. You have to try and keep him in the pocket, which means that he gets more time in the pocket. And if you do compress the pocket and you leave a gap open, he's gone. It's a first down. Then you've also got the fact that they just have the strong identity of the run game. Derrick Henry running over fools. They put in Patrick Ricard at fullback. They've got like 350 pound, more than that, probably like close to 400 pounds of mass running at you as if Ricard is a lead blocker and you've got Henry running behind him, and you've got these lighter corners now because the game is more about speed and pass defense. Teams can't keep up. And I love what Harbaugh's done there. I love what they've done with Lamar Jackson. They are just such a good team defensively, offensively. They know exactly what they need to be doing. They're so well coached. They've got the depth. They've got the talent. They added Jair Alexander at cornerback. They've got Kyle Hamilton. This is such a strong team. It is Super Bowl or bust for the Ravens. And I want to see them play in one. I think I would take the Ravens right now over the Chiefs. I would. Eagles, it's right there between the Eagles and the Ravens. Right there. I'm going to leave it though. We're going on to another strong team though, the Bills. They have never had less than 11 wins with Josh Allen. Immediate Super Bowl contenders. I mean, what are we talking about here? They've had 11 wins, 13 wins, 11 wins, 13 wins. They just alternate between those two numbers. And Josh Allen, almost a bit like Lamar Jackson, is a one-man wrecking crew. he is incredible as well. I love what Joe Brady did this offense 2 years ago. The use of motion is fantastic. Just kind of kept the Josh Allen experience fresh. It wasn't all on him. James Cook as a running back, brilliant. They added Joe Bosa to kind of as that joker up their sleeve in the playoffs to try and wheel him out. Hopefully he's healthy in the playoffs to try and help them get over the hump. Again, this team, it feels like the way they keep losing means that we kind of almost look at them as a worse team than they are. But this team is consistently competing for a Super Bowl every single year. And I do think right now they're better than the Chiefs. Now, they can't beat the Chiefs, but I think on paper they are better than them. And again, it's a question of, can you get the one? Can you get the one? They've been there so many times, right? Last 4 seasons, they've been trying to get there, and they just keep stumbling in that final hurdle. Just they need to get there. Same with the Ravens. I think whoever gets there from the AFC, Ravens, Bills, Chiefs, could easily win it. Ravens and Bills, definitely. Comfortable Super Bowl contender. Then we have the Broncos. They're actually under the radar team. Like, everyone knows this team is good. I don't think that everyone knows that this team could be great this year, really. They have a really well-rounded, really deep, well-coached, talented team. They were the best defense in the league last year. Patrick Surtain, Defensive Player of the Year. They were fantastic against the pass, great against the run. They play so much man coverage because they have the talent to hold up. They send blitzers. You've got 5 or 6 players coming at you, and you've only got 4 or 5 blocking, or 5 or 6 blocking. Puts quarterbacks under pressure. It's a simple system because they've got the talent. Really, the linchpin is Patrick Surtain. When you can play man coverage and rely on your cornerbacks to stay in coverage for 2 to 2.5 seconds, if you're sending a blitz, it's going to get home somewhere. So it's simple because it works, and they have the talent to do it. And they made their defensive strengths even stronger. They added Dre Greenlaw at linebacker. They added Tanalo Hufanga at safety. And they added Jade Barron as a slot corner, which now you've got to beat Patrick Surtain as the number one. Your number one's got to beat Surtain, which few receivers can do. Your slot receiver has to then beat Jade Barron in the slot, which, again, few slot receivers can do. They just match up really well. They match up really, really well. And the offense, Sean Payton's system, look, it takes a while to get there, right? Bo Nix was always going to struggle initially. You have these crazy long play calls. I mean, you've seen the videos of Drew Brees saying the 20-word long play call, which, how you remember that, I have literally no idea. And understandably, it took him a few weeks to get used to the system. And when he did, it looked really good. Is Bo Nix a great quarterback? I don't think he is. Is he a good enough one? I do, yes. That's what I think he is good enough, frankly. And they have an elite offensive line, I think, second behind only the Eagles, which makes that offensive system tick, the run game, the passing game, everything. The wide receivers are a bit lacking, but the offense, the team as a whole is so strong. And the AFC West is a murderer's row this year. As I said, I think the Raiders will be the worst team. And I think they're a playoff fringe team. So that might be the kind of what trips them up. But I think this team is comfortably a playoff contender. And I think they're a better playoff contender than the Chargers. The Packers, they have a very strong head coach and quarterback combination, which kind of drives the league, if we're being honest. Defenses like the Broncos count for loads. But as I said, the best teams, the ones in Super Bowl contenders and playoff contenders, all of them have great head coaches and really good quarterbacks, or vice versa. And the Packers are no exception to that rule at all. They have Matt LaFleur and Jordan Love. High floor, out the gate, 100%. Matthew Golden, I'm not sold on, personally. I wasn't as high on him as everyone else. And I don't think he's going to have quite the impact that people think he is. I don't think he's going to be a 1,000 yards guy. I'd like to know what his yards over under is. I don't know that now. But putting money on it, I don't think it'll be 1,000 yards. I could live to regret that, because what he will give is a deep threat, which was missing from this offense last year. And that was, one catch for Golden. He's going to have the stat line of 3 for 133 yards and 2 touchdowns kind of stat line. Offensive line, they've had a really odd approach to the offensive line this year, kind of adding in players where they already have players and drafting. It was bizarre, but they have a good offensive line nevertheless. And they have Josh Jacobs at running back, who was a top 5 running back last year. And I think the offense was over-reliant on the run game because of Jordan Love's injuries. So if Jordan Love is healthy and is playing up to his best level, because with CJ Stroud 2 years ago, he was looking like a top 8 quarterback in the league. That's why they paid him. He looked great. Last year, didn't look as good. If we get 2 years ago version of Jordan Love, Packers are absolutely cooking. Defense, top 5 by points allowed. They're a really good defense. Same group, barring Jair Alexander, but nevertheless a really strong group. Now, as I said, we need Love, or they need Love, to be that top 7 guy, that top 8 guy again. Hot and cold in 2024. Let's bank on him being at least a little less hot and cold. I think they are pretty comfortably playoff contenders, definitely. And I would say more so than the Chargers. The Bucs. Baker Mayfield FC. Man, love that guy. 3rd offensive coordinator in 30 years. I don't quote me on this, but I think off the top of my head, Baker Mayfield has never had the same offensive coordinator 2 years in a row. The amount of offense that this guy must know in his head, crazy. They've now got Josh Grizzard as their offensive coordinator, and we've seen enough of Baker to know that he is a playoff winning quarterback. Maybe not much more than that. I would try and be fair to the other quarterbacks here. Baker isn't much better than that, but I think he can win a playoff game, definitely, which is kind of all you need, really. You make the playoffs, if you string together 3 good performances, you won the big one, really. They've got Mike Evans, another 1,000-yard season, just Mr. Consistent. Drafted Mekere Buka. I questioned the draft choice, not the player. The player's great. He's going to be great. They've also then got Chris Godwin, Jalen McMillan. That's a really strong, deep 4 receiver core. Running back, Bucky Irving. Great find. So elusive. So fun to watch. Most creative running back with the ball in his hands. Up there with the best of the best. Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley. Just sees gaps and rushing lanes before they're even there. And the offensive line, which is kind of the predicate of the whole offense, really, is really damn strong. It's a top offensive line in the league, and that's what you need for Baker Mayfield, who isn't great under pressure, and what you need with Bucky Irving, who is a bit, isn't the most athletic, so he needs to have those holes blocked for him. The defense, you've got Vita Vea in the middle. He needs to stay healthy. You need to see a bit of a step up from the pass rush as well. You need Hassan Reddick to be that guy. You need Yaya Diaby to take a step. And you need the pass rush to get home. But really, the NFC South, it's there for the taking, and it has been for the past 5 years. I mean, the Bucs can kind of close their eyes and wander into the playoffs, really. 5 straight playoff appearances. They've had 4 straight divisional wins. There's a lot of continuity on this team. They're a strong overall team. I do not see that changing this year. I think I'll put the Bucs between the Chargers and the Packers. They're just definitely going to make the playoffs. And I think they could easily win a playoff game. The Titans. I like Cam Ward. He was the right draft pick. And a good quarterback, which I think Cam Ward could be, gives them a much higher ceiling. But will it be realised this year? The thing is with Cam Ward is that I think he is the type of quarterback whereby he can put the offense on his back and win games. But he is a little bit YOLO bally. He will be able to dig your team out of a hole that he put them in. So you've got to try and rein in that YOLO mentality a little bit for Cam Ward. Not too much because you want him to spin it and be aggressive, like a Drake May, like a Josh Allen. But there's definitely a balance there with Cam Ward. And it's also worth mentioning that Cam Ward, was QB1 pretty comfortably, but in a very weak quarterback class. And we've seen other QB1s, Caleb Williams, Trevor Lawrence, to name just a few in recent years, struggle. And they were more talented, better quarterbacks, I would say, pretty comfortably as well. So how will Ward, who came from Incarnate Word to Washington State to Miami, fare in the NFL as a week 1 starter? I think it's fair to say that he could struggle out of the gate. I don't think he's going to be bad ultimately, but I think if you're expecting Ward to immediately take this team to the playoffs, I think you're lying to yourself, frankly. Last season, though, this is what I'm talking about with Cam Ward and the turnovers. The Titans had a negative 16 turnover margin, which was the second worst in the NFL. If that just creeps back to negative 5, and that's because Will Levis was just coughing up interceptions, right? And this guy was giving the ball to the other teams. We need to look at this guy for match fixing. Cam Ward shouldn't do that, at least not seemingly on purpose like it was with Will Levis. But that's why he needs to look after the ball, because the defense needs to be given a chance. It needs more than a chance, really. The defense is not good in Tennessee. It is not good. I'm concerned about it beyond Sweat and Simmons in the interior. The rest is not good. The pass rush is not looking good. Snead from the Chiefs, the big trade, he took a massive step back. Cornerback is unreliable. He might not be as good as he was in Kansas City by any means. They were 29th in sacks per game last year, and I don't think that's going to change. Without pass rush, without pressuring the quarterback, the defense is going to struggle. So the offense needs to get ready to play. And I just worry there's going to be a few picks there from Cam Ward. A little bit of rookie quarterback moments, we'll say. And the upgraded offensive line, that will help. They got a new wide receiver core, that will help. I just think the defense gives me cause for concern. And I think we're expecting too much from Cam Ward to be able to really make that less of an issue. I think they're going to be a bottom 3 team, the Titans, unfortunately. But again, I think Cam Ward was the right pick. And I think he could be a good quarterback. It's not just about him being bad. The Commanders. Again, Commanders fans, we've clashed about Jaden Daniels. I was wrong. Okay, I'm not afraid to admit that on this channel. I was wrong about Jaden Daniels. I mean, by wrong, I had him as my 10th ranked player, not my QB2. But whatever, I was wrong. I do think, though, that this team is also due some regression, dare I say. I think that despite Jaden Daniels being electric on the ground, his ability to throw a fade down the sidelines, one of the best throwers of that specific route in the NFL. Like, it's just perfect. It's like Russell Wilson moonball-esque, just like comes down right in stride. It's so accurate. He throws it so early. It's brilliant. It's unbelievable, in fact. And I was also wrong about Cliff Kingsbury as well. There was no Cliff, which we were worried about, how his offenses tend to fall off a cliff towards the end of the season. That did not happen. They were one game away from going to the Super Bowl. They unfortunately came up against the Eagles, which were very, very strong, but nevertheless, they were one game away. I just think, though, that the Commanders have kind of outkicked their coverage a bit here. I think they were too good too early. And I think that they managed to hit a lot of green lights, which I think inevitably they're not going to hit this year. So what I mean by that is I think they definitely had a late draft pick, which they needed. They need defensive talent. They need talent really on the team to really help that train keep moving. They did add Laramie Tunsil. They did add Deebo Samuel, but Deebo in particular is not really as big a needle mover as the name recognition would suggest. I don't trust the defense. They had 55 points hung up on them by, yes, the Eagles, but nevertheless, that was 55 points. And they had 35 points 2 weeks before hung up on them by the Cowboys, which was not a good offense last year. So my issue is they hit a lot of green lights, namely they won nine one-score games. A lot of things went their way last year, it's safe to say. And inevitably, they're not going to win all 9 of them next year. It's kind of just how it works. You get a bad bounce on a kick. You have a receiver drop a pass. The Ravens lost that way because the tight end dropped it in the end zone. It happens. It's unlucky. You can't account for it. But the Commanders, not because they're not a good team, they are, especially with Jaden Daniels, but they did get lucky as well. And I just think they're not going to be as good. They're going to be good, but not as good. So I'm going to put them behind the 49ers. I just have a little bit of concerns about the Commanders. I think they're going to be good. I could see them comfortably making the playoffs. And I will definitely tell you that I'm wrong if that happens. I just think that a lot of things went their way last year, and I don't think they're going to go their way this year. The Cowboys. A freak down year for the Cowboys. I'm not saying they're going to win it all this year, but I think they're not going to be as bad pretty easily, right? Dak is a very overhated quarterback. I think that he is a reliably fringe top 10 guy, and he was even better than that in 2023. Let's not forget he was an MVP candidate only 2 years ago. People are very quick to forget that. Dak Prescott, I know he gets memed, and the Cowboys get memed. Dak Prescott is a good quarterback. CeeDee Lamb, one of the worst years of his career, he'll inevitably bounce back. It was because he was the only option on his whole offense. They've now got George Pickens, who I'm glad we can now all agree is just a wide receiver 2. He's got some high upside, sure, but he's not a number 1. But I think as a 2, he's really good. And I think Lamb and Pickens is a really nice duo. And at running back, they got Javonte Williams, not moved by him. Miles Sanders, he's okay. But Jaden Blue, got the speed, the rookie from Texas. Look out for him. Overall, that's a decent running back room. Might need a star, but we'll see. Micah Parsons is back healthy. He's a top 3 pass rusher. I just think this team, it's not exciting. I don't think they're going to be amazing. I think the Commanders have gotten a lot better. That the Cowboys have had the advantage of having a really weak division for the last however many years. I think they're going to lose some of those games they usually expect to win. They're not dangerous. They definitely feel mortal, but they are a playoff fringe team. It's a question of, do I think they're better or worse than the Cowboys? I think they're definitely not as good as the Texans. You know what? Let's put them there. I'm big on the Raiders. The Falcons. This hinges on Michael Penix and the pass rush. 2 pretty important facets of a team, I would say. They were the second worst by sacks per game last year at 1.8%, and they hit that hard, right? They drafted 2 players in the draft, Jalen Walker and James Pierce Jr., to help that. I think that James Pierce Jr. gives you a high floor. I think he's a really good pass rusher. Jalen Walker, I think there's a volatility question there. We don't really know what we're going to get with him. But nevertheless, they addressed it. And I think they will improve that part of the ball. And then with Michael Penix, he looked great in a few starts. Carolina in week 18, 7 big-time throws in a single game. That is absolutely bonkers. He was throwing some passes which didn't even compute in my brain. Like physically. I'm talking about physics. Not like physically. I don't know what, is that physically? I don't know. Physics-wise, did just not make sense. The ball just had like no dip. It looked like it was going through defenders' arms, straight into the hands of his receiver. Unbelievable. He was absolutely ripping it against one of the worst defenses in the league, or the worst defense in the league for years. Nevertheless, ripping it, right? You can only play against people you're playing against. But I think, though, that we also saw against Washington the week before, bad footwork, inaccurate passes, just rookie problems, again, that need ironing out. And there's potential there, but that needs to be realised, I would say. I like the offensive line. They've obviously got really strong weapons in Bijan Robinson, Darnell Mooney, Drake London. Dare I say Carl Pitts anymore? Who knows? Maybe he can finally find something. But it's like what he had in Washington, Michael Penix, with Odunze, McMillan and Polk. He's got 3 nice receiving weapons. So you're setting Penix up for success. I think they're going to be a decent team. But a full season from Penix and expecting, in basically his rookie season, he started 4 games? And if you're expecting Jalen Walker and James Pierce-Jr. to hit the ground running and really revolutionize your pass rush, I think there's a lot of question marks that you're relying on, a lot of young players that you're relying on. And that leaves me with hesitation. So I'm going to put them in mid. Is it better than the Patriots, though? I do love Drake May. Do I like him more than Michael Penix? I don't know. It's really hard. When there's this many teams, it is hard to rank them. I think I'm going to leave the Patriots at the top of mid. I am that high on the Patriots. The Cardinals. I struggle with this team. I always overrate them. And the last 3 years, they've under-delivered. I like Kyler Murray. I think he can be a top 10 quarterback on his day. But he is inconsistent. He does run really hot and cold. And he was not on the same page last year with Marvin Harrison Jr. at all. And that was a problem from both of them. Back shoulder wasn't there. Leading him in fades wasn't there. Ball placement was off. I think separation from Marvin Harrison Jr. wasn't there. It was both of them not helping out the other one, really. And if this offense is going to turn around, that needs to change. Now, Marvin Harrison Jr. has bulked up. Not really sure why. I think that my biggest concern with Marvin Harrison Jr., as opposed to Malik Neighbors, obviously, is that the separation isn't how he wins necessarily, right? He's a bigger guy. He's not the fastest. He's not as agile as a Malik Neighbors. He's bigger. He can't be. But that's why I think putting on more mass isn't necessarily the way to go for him. I need to see him separate more. And I don't want him just to become a big-bodied, muscly, contested catch wide receiver. I want to see this guy separate because that's how you win. Consistently, at least. And the defense has improved. Walter Nolan, I think, is going to be really good. Will Johnson, if he's healthy, going to be really good. Calais Campbell, Josh Sweat, Davin Tomlinson. We need to see Darius Robinson do something. But this feels like a mid team. If we're being really honest with ourselves, it feels mid. Definitely not better than the Lions. I think the Lions are going to be better than the Falcons. I will put the Lions. I'm going to move the Lions up. Oh, God. I feel like the Panthers are going to be better than the Cardinals as well. Yeah, Cardinals, man. I need to see something. The Steelers. I'm not buying it. The Aaron Rodgers-led Steelers, I don't think he's going to gel well with Arthur Smith. I think that's going to be a big problem. It's not just on the field, it's more kind of off the field. You've kind of got this weird relationship whereby Aaron Rodgers has always wanted to do his own thing offensively. He wants the power at the line to change the play call. Problem is, first of all, he was not good last year. Well, he wasn't not good last year. He was actually better than people think the Jets' record were. So he was going to suggest at least. But he has not been as good as he has been previously. And Arthur Smith, as an offensive coordinator who wants to keep his job, is he going to be happy to let Rodgers take control of his offense when Rodgers has said very clearly that he's going to only play this year and then no longer? I don't think that's going to happen. Right? Why do you give your keys to a rental? If he was going to be here for 3 years, then fine, grow that relationship between the two of you. But he's a rental, and we know what Rodgers is like as a person now. We see it on Pat McAfee, right? I don't think he's someone that people would warm to. I would say I've not met the guy. I've only seen him in interviews. Maybe I'm being harsh. I don't want to unfairly judge someone. But I think knowing what we know about Rodgers, I think that is fair to say. I just think that's going to be a problem. There's going to be some headbutting. and that's going to result in a bad on-field product. I think Metcalf, Robert Woods, and Calvin Austin, Roman Wilson is a fine wide receiver core. I think Pickens for Metcalf is a sideways move. I think the offensive line is not that great. And I think Rodgers, who is a 41-year-old quarterback, needs a better offensive line than the Steelers have. The defense will inevitably be good, especially the defensive line. Addition of Jalen Ramsey obviously makes that unit better as well. He's still got something to give, if not being the same guy he was a few years ago, still has juice left in the tank. I just don't see it all coming together. I think there's been a lot of sideways moves. I think Ramsey is an upgrade. It would make sense to get Ramsey in, keep Fitzpatrick, and just kind of hope that with a great defense and an okay offense, you can pull Rodgers and the offense across the line for a Super Bowl. But there's just been a lot of sideways moves in Pittsburgh. The Pickens trade, the Ramsey for Fitzpatrick trade. To a degree, Rodgers and Russ, I just don't see it all coming together. There's talent there, don't get me wrong, but I just think this is a team that could implode on and off the field. I'm going to put them in bad. Are they going to be better than the Dolphins? Yeah, I think they probably will be. I think they probably will be better than the Dolphins, but I think this team could be picking top 10. Steelers fans, I know you're going to hate that. TJ Watt is great, okay? Throw that in as a sweetener, all right? Seahawks. I think my ranking of this team might surprise some people. I really like Mike Macdonald's defense. It's such a clever system. It needs a lot of players to do a lot of different things, kind of wear different hats, be able to blitz, rush pass, whatever it might be. They had their linchpin in Ernest Jones at linebacker. They found him. He's great, gave him good money. And as a defensive system, it will inevitably get better in year two as players get better at it and understanding it. I'm really excited to see what Nick Emanwari will do in that defense. Kind of he can be that guy that can play on the line of scrimmage, that kind of Kyle Hamilton-esque kind of player. Can play on the line of scrimmage, can drop into coverage. Not as good as that. I wasn't as high on Emanwari as other guys were, but nevertheless, an interesting fit, really interesting fit. I think the defense is going to be solid. It's the offense that I'm less certain about. I think that the offensive line has improved with Grose Abel, who I loved. He was my 16th ranked player on my big board. He is definitely going to be good. But I'm just not confident about the rest of that offensive line. I like Charles Cross at left tackle. I like Grose Abel at left guard. It's the other three that do concern me. And Sam Darnold, a bit like Jared Goff, is a quarterback that is susceptible to interior pressure. That's how the Vikings seasons ended last year. It was interior pressure up the middle. Sam Darnold could not offset it. And Geno was really good last year in offsetting that pressure himself. The wide receivers are odd. They've got Cooper Kupp and Jackson Smith-Njigba. Both of those guys are slot guys. Both like 70% slot guys. Who's the outside guy? Marquez Valdes-Scantling? That's not who you want as your wide out one. It could be Torrey Horton, but it's brave to rely on a third, fourth round rookie to step up and be that guy in his rookie season. I just don't really see the vision offensively. I think that they downgraded at quarterback. The offensive line improved, but not enough. And the wide receivers don't fit together for me. I think you want a diversification of skill set. You want a great slot guy like Kupp, like Jackson Smith-Njigba, but you also want the outside guy. They don't have that. So I just don't see the vision here with the Seahawks. And I'm going to put them... Are they going to be better or worse? I think they'll be better than the Falcons. I think they will be better than the Falcons. I trust Darnold more than I trust Penix, but I think Penix could be a lot. I think Penix's ceiling is higher, but it's a known quantity in Darnold. I do like Mike Mack as a head coach. We'll see for the Seahawks. The Jets. This team is going to be good in 1 or 2 years, just not this year. It's very much a transition year, definitely. They invest in the offensive line with Amar Membu. Great pick. Again, can't rely on him to be great now, but I'm sure he will be in a few years. And they've signed Justin Fields as that bridge quarterback. So Fields is going to bring great rushing threat. He's going to raise the floor of the running game. Not very good in the passing game, I would say, or not consistent as a passer in the NFL. So I think the passing game will take a slight dip, which will impact Garrett Wilson, who is now the only option on that offense, along with somehow Alan Lazard, who is still playing football in the year of our Lord 2025 now. And I think Breece Hall took a step back. They're going to go to a running back by committee. I think the offensive line is young and exciting, but that might take a year to really realize its full potential. And the defense, Sauce Gardner, cornerback is a hard position. He took a step back. It's very difficult to be consistently good at a really difficult position like cornerback. And the defensive line is nice. Will McDonald, Quinnen Williams, Jermaine Johnson. I like those three. They're not a terrible team. And I think genuinely in maybe as soon as next year, definitely the year after. They're going to be a good one. I don't think they're going to be a good team now, if that makes sense. And I think they're not. They're going to be right there with the Colts. Would I take Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson over Justin Fields? The weapons in Indianapolis are a hell of a lot better. So I'm going to say that those quarterbacks are going to therefore overtake what I think Justin Fields can offer. Coming to the end now, the Bengals, third last team. They have Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. They might have a whole slew of other problems. Trey Hendrickson, still at the time of recording, not been paid. The rookie, who is their rookie this year? Their rookie, can't remember off the top of my head. He's still not been paid. Shamar Stewart. He's not still been paid. They're a mess. How they're run is a disgrace, a genuine disgrace. You have the Eagles up here. I hope you can see my hand. The Eagles are up here and how good they're run. Then you have the rest of the league kind of around here, and then you've got the Eagles. The Eagles, the Bengals. They don't have a clue. They're penny pinchers, and they shoot themselves in the foot at any opportunity. The defense, if Trey Hendrickson isn't there and Shamar Stewart isn't there, is going to be awful. The defense with those two guys might be passable, but you need both of them, and you need Shamar Stewart to look good, which I'm worried he might not look good. I don't think he's that good at rushing the passer, despite being a very good athlete. But despite the bad defense, at the moment, with the question mark hanging over Trey Hendrickson and Shamar Stewart, and a not great offensive line, when you have Joe Burrow, when you have Jamar Chase, when you have T. Higgins, I would wager the best 3 quarterback, wide receiver trio in the league. That counts for a hell of a lot. Joe Burrow is a damn good quarterback. I think not in the elite tier with Lamar, Mahomes, and Allen, but definitely that next guy down is enough. Those 3 guys are enough. And they are not Super Bowl contenders, I would say, but they are definite playoff contenders. Definite playoff contenders. If you didn't have a freak loss to the Patriots and a few other 1-point overtime losses to the Steelers and the Ravens, there were 5 games that didn't bounce the Bengals' way. You have Commanders, really lucky. Bengals, really unlucky. They're going to come back towards the middle, both of those teams. So I think the Bengals are a firm playoff contender. And if they make the playoffs and Burrow's cooking, they can make a Super Bowl. The Giants. It is do or die for the Giants with Brian Dable and Joe Schoen. They feel like dead men walking, which is never a good way to start the season. They're kind of facing this bizarre catch-22, whereby Jackson Dart is this young and exciting quarterback, but if he starts, it means the Giants have been bad enough to start him. So they're cooked. But it also means that Russ, because there's a rookie on the bench, is going to be given a shorter leash. So it feels like, because fans want the exciting young quarterback, because the Giants might be a bit trigger happy to get Jackson Dart in to try and save their jobs, it feels like we are rushing to an inevitable point of the Giants just kind of making themselves bad, if that makes sense. The defensive line is going to be fantastic. The talent in there is unbelievable. Best defensive line in the league, I would say. Dexter Lawrence, Sexy Dexy, brilliant. Brian Burns, Abdul Carter, Darius Alexander. That is a 4. Dare I sound blockable? Dare I say it? The defense as a whole is exciting as well. Tyler Nubin, Deontay Banks, Javon Holland now coming in, Drew Phillips as well. The defense is going to be really good. Can it be enough? With Russ, maybe, but it's only Malik Neighbors. If you shut down Neighbors, is Wan'Dale Robinson going to step up? Probably not. Is Slayton going to step up? To a degree, but they needed a bit of juice receiving wise, and they don't have it after Neighbors. The offensive line, I think, is the ultimate underpinner here for me, I fear, which is that if Andrew Thomas is healthy, the offensive line is fine. If he's not, it's bad. And Russ is still trying to play like Russ is 28. And he's not 28 anymore. He's lost a significant amount of speed and escapability from the pocket. He's getting clipped as he's trying to escape the pocket from defensive linemen that are being engaged by offensive linemen. So that is the concern. And Jameis, if you send Jameis in, then, well, look, it's a fun experience, but you're done. So I think I'll put the Giants, I think they'll be better than the Titans because the defense is going to be good. But I don't think they're going to be better than that. Finally, the Rams. This, I think, is the last dance for Stafford, but he's got a really good chance of pulling it off, dare I say. They've added Devontae Adams. They've got Puka Nacua. Love that combination. I like their offensive line. I like the run game with Kyren Williams and the offensive system that Sean McVay runs. The offense, set. It's good to go. The defense, you've got Jared Verse, Defensive Rookie of the Year winner. Unbelievable power. He is so damn good. He's a top pass rusher. They've also got Braden Fisk, Poona Ford, Byron Young, Kobe Turner. Aaron Donald, so sad he's gone. One of the best players I've ever laid my eyes on. He has, I would say, been recreated in the aggregate, right? There's no player that's as good as Donald. There might never be. But those players, I think, make up what he was, which was a good defensive line by himself. They are pretty clearly, I would say, despite, having some questions about their secondary and their linebacker group. We saw that get exposed against the Eagles especially. But the defensive line is really strong. So I think they're a clear playoff contender. I would put them ahead of the Packers as well. So let's see then. Who are the top 10 teams in the league? So at number 1, we have the Eagles. Number 2, the Ravens. 3, Bills. 4, Chiefs. 5, Bengals. 6, Broncos. 7, Rams. 8, Packers. 9, Bucks. 10 Chargers. There's my top 10 teams. And on the fringe, we've got the 49ers, Commanders, Vikings, Bears, Texans, maybe a little tier down from the Raiders and the Cowboys there. And then the worst teams, the teams that I think are going to be picking top 10 in the draft this year. First overall pick, Saints. Browns picking second. Titans third. Giants fourth. Jets fifth. Colts 6. Dolphins 7. Steelers 8. God, the Steelers are going to hate that. Jags 9. Cardinals 10. I like this. I like it, dare I say. There's a lot of teams here that I think in the playoff fringe and no man's land that could be a lot better, or maybe even a lot worse than I think. But the top ones, especially the top 4, top 7, I would say, up to here, I feel really good about. But what do you think? Have I ranked your team way too low? Have I ranked your team way too high? Let me know everything in the comments. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe for more NFL offseason content. But I've been your host, Dom Corbs. This has been Corbs NFL. I'll see you in the next video.